recording for the meeting, that would be great as well.
So can you all see the slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, great.
Recording is started, just so you know, Marcy.
Yep, I saw that. Thank you. We'll wait about 1 more minute. I see a few more people coming in. All right, are you guys ready? Good to start?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcy Miller, and I am part of the I-84 Danbury project team. And I'm here to welcome you to our 10th Project Advisory Committee meeting. And oh, I saw someone scream saber. And I welcome you. This is gonna follow a similar format, virtual. We will have a series of short discussions followed by a Q&A, so please chime in. I think we've had great discussions where people feel comfortable, and I will be reading the chat pane if you want to type your comments in, and I'll also be looking at raised hands. So as we go through the presentation, I'll remind the speakers if you're doing that. So again, regular breaks. If we can go to our next slide, Rick. All right, so I do this at every meeting. I will be 1 minute or less. This meeting is live and recorded, so please understand that. Usually you have to sign a little waiver at the top of your, dismiss it from the top of your screen. We'll post the presentation and everything to the website as soon as we're done with the meeting. It might actually already be up there. Again, there's 2 ways you can participate in today's meeting: through the Microsoft Teams video, or you can call in via your phone. And I do believe I had 1 person calling in. No, maybe not. And typically, if you do call in and you want to speak, just introduce yourself so we can respond to you directly. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. And if I do hear a lot of background noise, I might go and try to mute everyone with the exception of the speaker. And I already mentioned I'll read questions and comments out. So, and we always post the recording as well to our website after the meeting. Next slide, please. All right, these are how you turn your video on and off. Please, if you're speaking, we'd love if you can turn it on, but we also understand if you have connection issues. You can turn on, and then your mute button was right next to that. The participation list, that's where you can see who's here and also who's raising their hands ahead of you. The chat pane is that next button over that looks like a little comment bubble. You type your questions in and make sure to hit that arrow in the lower right-hand corner to submit them. And then finally, the ellipsis is other functions. This is where you can do things like set your backgrounds and stuff like that. The most important thing is if you want to raise your hand, click on the little hand button in that participation tab, and I'll see the red hands and I'll know to call on you. Hopefully we don't have a ton of questions. This might be our 5th or 6th meeting doing it this way, and we hope it's still working for you all. Are there any questions? I'm going to take the moment to let 1 more person in. Otherwise, I will do a quick introduction of the project team. I'm Marcy, I'm your moderator. Next, I will turn it over to Krishaleen Macrahan. Rick Black is going to be doing the majority of the presentation today, and Shalak Kalori will be chiming in to help answer some questions, and others will as well, Neil, Kevin, and Janine as needed. And so now I'd like to turn it over to Krishaleen to go over our agenda.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So for today's meeting, we're going to go over first, as usual, we're going to go over the PAC update. Then we'll recap of where we are in the process. So if you recall from our last PAC meeting 2 months ago, we talked about the engineering considerations, the environmental. So for today's meeting, we're going to go through one particular segment, which is mainline segment. We're going to go through the screening process of that. That's why we asked everyone in our email. We specifically said to look at concepts 1, 5, 8, 9, and 22. So that's total of 5 concepts because we're going to look into that with the mainline segment. And then after that, we're going to go through the screening criteria, rating criteria. Then we will end with discussions and questions. Next, please. So for pack update. So since our pack update 2 months ago, so we added we added more concepts in our website. So there should be 14 concepts. We should have concepts between 1 and 14, all of them, and concept 22 on our website. Then 2 months ago, we also attended the leadership meeting that is hosted by the Danbury Chamber of Commerce. So it was me and Sharat who attended this meeting. Then we also attended pop-up events in the city of Danbury. We're also active in our social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And lastly, we don't have any changes with our pack. Thank you. And to that, Rick,
Thanks, Chrislene.
you're welcome.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It's good to virtually be with you guys again. As you remember, we've shown this arrow multiple times, and last time we really talked about what our fatal flaw analysis was, and we've now begun to screen each of the concepts. This meeting is going to be showing you only one segment, the mainline segment. If you recall, the mainline segment goes through the entire corridor. We've also broken out, because of the complexity of this, of the set of issues that are associated with different segments. We've got the west segment, the center segment, and the east segment. But today we're going to focus on the entire mainline segment, and we've just labeled some of the main roads just so you get a feel for where this main line is. So in our screening process, as you know, we've gone from fatal flaw to redundancy to this impact matrix analysis. And Chrislene reminded you that the 5 concepts that have been proposed for the main line that we're looking at are concept 1, add a lane, concept 5, the left to right hand ramps, concept 8, the I-84 under a collector distributor road, concept 9, route 7 express lane in the median, concept 22, I-84 express lane in the median. And how we're going to present these is we're going to go through them, and we're going to let Sharat describe to you the different components of some of these concepts. So our first one is concept 5 we want to look at directly, the left hand to right hand ramps for the main line. Sharat, do you want to talk about, we've highlighted 2 areas here. And if Sharat can just give us an update on what these actually mean to us.
Sure. The concept 5 left-hand to right-hand ramps kind of came about the same time as we envisioned concept 1 with the lane add. In concept 5, what we are doing is essentially looking at interchanges 3 and 7 and just switching the ramps from the left-hand side to right-hand side. So if you're looking at to the left figure, if you're looking at interchange 3, we are switching that northbound Route 7 ramp to 84 westbound on the right side. Today it's on the left side. And then the westbound 84 to southbound 7, we are switching that to the right side at interchange 3. And then similarly at interchange 7, we are switching the 84 eastbound off ramp to the right side to Route 7 north. And then the movement from Route 7 southbound that comes on the left side of 84 eastbound to the right side. You're not making any other changes besides just changes to those 2 interchanges in concept 5.
The next concept is concept 8, and that's the one where we've got the I-84 actually goes under the collector distributor road for the main line. And so we've got 3 specific locations, one to the west, one to the center, and one to the east that we can highlight what it looks like.
Sure. And this concept kind of came in the middle of our concept development process, and we were kind of thinking how we can take out the through movement of 84 completely from the Danbury area. And how do we do that? And the idea here is to depress 84 or lower 84 below grade at interchange 3 and take it all the way down below grade to interchange 8. About roughly between 7 and 8, 84 would be daylighting back again. So 84 would be all under the grade, and essentially you would not see 84 from the top. What you would see is a CD road that would collect traffic from all the local exits and put it on 84 on either end. And also Route 7 would then come in and connect with 84 at interchanges 3 and 7. So certainly this was quite extensive in terms of thinking about this, especially to lowering 84 for the entire stretch between 3 and 7. But that was
Thanks.
a basic idea of concept 8.
Thanks, Sharat. And the reason we're looking at 5 and 8 before the other ones is because the first thing we did was our fatal flaw screen. And concept 5, the left to right hand ramps, didn't meet the Pell study purpose. It didn't by itself reduce congestion. It failed to improve mobility. And concept 8, the I-84 road going under the CD road, had a ton of constructability issues, and it was really problematic connecting that to Route 7, had major, as you can imagine, major traffic disruption. It was highly complex. So those were 5 and 8 then through the fatal flaw analysis were removed from any further analysis. And in our process, we go from fatal flaw to redundancy, and neither C1 nor C9 nor C22 were redundant in their functions. So there was no redundancy removal in the redundancy level. And so they made it through to the matrix analysis. So if you recall, then the whole mainline segment, Sharat, again, if you would go over concept 1 and what that means. And again, we've highlighted these 3 areas just so you can see what it would look like. And so we've got here on the west and in the center and on the east. So, Sharat?
Sure. And this is the concept you probably saw the very first time, which is concept 1, where we just add a lane, maintain the lane continuity. We switch also as part of this concept, the left-hand to right-hand ramps at interchanges 3 and 7. So this achieves the benefit of maintaining the same number of lanes for through traffic across the corridor. So this is something you've seen at an earlier PAC meeting.
Thanks. And what I'd like you to note, now remember, this is a planning level. These aren't engineered. These aren't designed. This is Sharat's team coming up with the best visual that we can see, but also note the width of the footprint for the add lane, because that'll come into play later when we're looking at impacts. So our next concept we're looking at is concept 9. And once again, we just picked 3 locations that highlight what these look like. And that's when we're putting Route 7 in the median between as an express lane, if you will, between I-84 travel lanes. And we've got the one on the west side and in the center and on the east side. First of all, I'd like you to note the difference in width of the footprint. Again, I call this a crayon drawing. Sharat's team has put a lot more energy into it, but from a planning point of view, which is where we are in the process, we're just looking at conceptual what it could look like if we were to go to design. Sharat?
Yeah, so this one, as Rick said, essentially provides Route 7 as an express. So from interchange 3 to 7, Route 7 traffic does not have to mix with 84 traffic. All the Route 7 traffic would be in the median section in the 2 lanes, and they would be able to almost go free direct connect to to interchange 7 or from interchange 7 to interchange 3. There is provision for local traffic on Route 7 to get off and get on to the 84 piece of it to the sides. But between 3 and 7, Route 7 does not have any local access. So certainly provides a pretty straight direct connection for Route 7 traffic. As Rick said, this does provide a wide footprint. There's separation between I-84 and Route 7 with wider shoulders and barriers and things like that. So in comparison to Concept 1, the footprint from end to end is much wider than what it is there. So
Thank you, Sharat. And then if we go to concept 22, which is the I-84 Express, and it would then be in the main line between the flow through traffic on Route 7. And again, we've got three just example areas. And the first one is on the west, and then the center, and then the east. And again, notice, if you would, please, the footprint width. Sharat?
yeah, so 84 Express is kind of similar to the 7 Express that we looked at before, except in this case, it's 84 that's getting the privilege, so-called, where 84 traffic, and especially traffic that does not exit at local interchange, it does not want to exit at local interchanges, so it wants to go towards Hartford or Waterbury and things like that. They have the option of choosing to be on an express lane in the middle, and the local traffic from 84 can then use the road on the right side. They would mix with 7 traffic, so 7 and 84, in that on the right side would be accessing all the local exits, and ultimately both those roads meet west of exit 3 and east of exit 7, and they kind of merge together. But again, a wider footprint, just because we're trying to accommodate 84 express traffic in the middle and also local traffic on the outside.
Thank you. So, we all know that the reason we're calling these concepts is because these are conceptual and they aren't designed. But we're taking these concepts then into looking at kind of orders of magnitude of impacts from these crayon drawings, from these conceptual designs. And so if we first go into our I-84 matrix analysis, now you guys have seen these in other presentations, these tables. But let me remind you that we have 2 of these types of matrices. One is the engineering considerations and one is the environmental. This one is the engineering considerations, and we have those broken into key considerations and additional considerations. Key considerations being those that really strongly could influence a decision as to whether we keep a concept or it fails through this matrix. So in this example, for the main line, we looked at the reduction in travel time on I-84 in the morning and the evening, and Route 7 in the morning and the evening, and the corrections in the weaving amongst or between interchanges. Now, if you look at the rating criteria under the green dot here, we see these numbers, and let me remind us what these numbers represent. And Sharat, reach through the screen and slap me and correct me if I misstate this. But these numbers are the modeled increase in delay that would happen at the design year of 2040 if no action was taken through this corridor. So if there was no build, no concept, no projects, in 2040, we would be increasing our travel time through this section in the morning on I-84 by 25 minutes, and in the evening on the I-84 portion by 50 minutes. And similarly, in Route 7, it would be a 40-minute increase in travel time in 2040 in the morning and 55 minutes in the evening.
So let me just jump in, Rick, there. So
Please.
what basically we're trying to say in establishing a criteria is, what we're trying to say is, let's say if we did nothing today from what's said today, and the traffic grows up in 2040, obviously travel times are going to go up. So as you drive to the corridor, you're going to incur more delay, more congestion, because it's already a problem now and it's going to increase in 2040. So how we are measuring in the first 4 lines here on the I-84 and the Route 7 travel times is if any of these concepts are going to substantially reduce that increase in travel time that we will potentially see in 2040, and by how much. So those numbers there represent a quantified reduction in travel time that may be seen across these concepts if we did any of these. So, so for example, on line 1, we found that, Rick, I'll just pick that one and then you can take the rest. But that one we didn't find that they're all yellow means we are seeing reduction in travel times that are generally the same across 1, 9, and 22. We don't see a substantial benefit on one concept versus the other. So that's why you see the no differentiation. So the numbers 10 to 24 means it's in range in that yellow area where those 3 concepts are performing very similar in the I-84 morning reduction in travel time.
Thanks, Sharat. So like Sharat was saying, we've assigned a green dot to any concept that has significantly decreased the travel time predicted or modeled in the 2040 no-build scenario. And then we have used a rating criteria to the right of if it only barely improves the travel time by 10 to 15 minutes, then we're going to assign that a red dot in the rating criterion, and someplace in between gets the yellow dot. And you'll see that there's different colors for each different concept. And as these concepts were applied to the model, we see that, and the reason that we wanted to leave for this example, leave the 3 yellow dots on I-84 morning and show that there's no difference amongst them, is you'll see in the next table that we have a series of issues that showed no difference amongst concept 1, 9, and 22. And the reason that's important is to let everybody know that we looked at more than these 7 issues. We looked at a host of other issues, but they didn't make any difference when applied to concept 1, 9, or 22. So these were the engineering considerations that we looked at that actually had a difference amongst the 3 concepts. So we'll see that concept 1 ended up with 3 green and 1 yellow in these key considerations, and we just chose a qualifier for corrections of weaving for it. It either betters the weaving, it doesn't touch the weaving, or it worsens the weaving. And we found that concept 1 doesn't do much to the weaving, where concept 9 and 22 improves those weaves. However, concept 1 addresses the travel time much better than either of the other 2 concepts. And we see down here in the other additional engineering considerations that the construction complexity and the construction costs also favored 1. But if we head on down to the other factors that were considered, you'll see the very bottom one, that's a carryover from the I-84 AM reduction in travel time, where all 3 of them were yellow. We wanted at this time to present it in both this table as well as this, so you see how we carried those over. But in addition to that yellow I-84 AM reduction in travel time, we also looked at lane continuity, the elimination of left-hand ramps, reduction in peak hour delay, a consistent design speed for both at both interchange 3 and 7 for 84, and in a stopping sight distance improvement, acceleration and deceleration lane lengths improvement at all interchanges, an improvement in vertical geometry, and can we maintain I-84 traffic during construction. So these were considered, but they were all applied equally. There was no differentiator amongst the 3 concepts. So those are the engineering factors.
Rick, I don't know if you want to pause for a second. Maybe someone has any questions before we get to
I think that's a
environmental.
great idea, Sharat. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions up to this point on either a meaning of any of these considerations, or how we applied rating criterion, or any of those things? Marcy, do we see any hands raised?
I don't. Let's just wait one more second. Sometimes, people are finding their buttons.
Yep.
But it looks pretty quiet so far.
We can slip back to one of these if there's a hand raised that addresses the engineering considerations. So then we looked at the environmental considerations, and these mainly come in, if you recall, we asked you to take note on these concept drawings on the width. Concept 1 had a smaller footprint than did concept 9 and 22. Concept 1 was adding 1 lane to each direction on the existing footprint of I-84, or concept 9 and 22 had barriers and safe spaces and shoulders, as well as 2 lanes in each direction being added to the median. So it doesn't surprise us to take a look and say, well, our full number of our property takes was much less in concept 1 than it was in 9 or 22. And a lot of those neighborhoods that are being impacted are sensitive and environmental justice neighborhoods. So concept 1 showed better than did 9 or 22. It's the same when we look at partial property takes and community facilities. We find that because the footprint is much smaller, the concept 1 favored out. Some of the non-differentiators that we looked at were wetland type impacts, wetland and stream, and cemetery, and potential habitat for state listed. They all impacted to a similar degree those resources. Also, everything is going to need a noise analysis, and there's a potential for floodplain impacts and impacts to the gas pipeline, and some visual and aesthetic impacts. And then all of them also perform to the same degree, but to a good degree, the potential for 4F impacts, critical environmental impacts, listed states or listed federal species, and historic properties. So taking all of these into consideration, we looked at these, and concept 9 and concept 22 falls out in this matrix analysis. So for the main line, only concept 1 made it through all 3 levels of screening: the fatal flaw, the redundancy, and this matrix analysis. So if you recall, we will then look at the same screening process for center, west, and east segments, and then we will combine them. So the next slide, if you will notice, Maine is the one that is bolded, and the other ones are grayed out. The reason is this is only an example of what would happen, what could happen in the next 3 screenings. So we know that Maine 1, or concept 1, made it through this analysis. Let's just put on our imagination caps and say we only had 1 concept that makes it through the center, and we've just arbitrarily named that center 2. West, we've said 2, let's just pretend 2 make it through, that's west 3 and west 4, and only 2 make it through east 5 and east 6. Our next step, once we do those screenings, will be to combine anything that makes it through our screening process. And in this case, in this pretend example, we have an M1, C2, W3, E5, an M1, C2, W3, E6. And then we have the same with West 4. So we end up in this example, we could end up with 4 segment concept combinations. Now, remember, we have not done center, west, and east. We could end up with 3 centers and only 1 west and 3 easts. But this is just an example to show you what could happen. And then the next step would be simply that we are going to toss all 4 of those concept combinations into another screening, where we've got a feasibility and congestion mobility analysis. We've got the redundancy analysis, and we've got the matrix analysis. Now, what the Pell process will do is make recommendations for projects that could be carried forward into a detailed environmental or a NEPA analysis. And these 4 concept combinations would be amongst the reasonable range of alternatives that could slide into a project environmental analysis. So, Krishlene, were you going to go through this, or would you like me to go through this?
I was just thinking, Rick, maybe you take a pause and see if anyone has any questions. A lot of information there, so.
Are there any questions or comments? Still looking pretty quiet. Oh, wait.
John has a
John.
question.
Yeah, I have a question. It looks like in the feasibility, it's, concept 1 gets all the green lights. Thinking through the whole process, in the past meetings, we discussed the impact of accessing I-84 and Route 7 through Danbury. In other words, access roads to access getting on and off of the highway. What does concept 1, if we're going to talk about the green lighted concept, what does concept 1 do to minimize or alleviate or help with the accessing the highway?
Sharad, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take that. So John, if you, Rick, go back to the previous slide if you can. So this is just a piece, go to the next one. Yeah, this one.
Okay.
This is just a piece of the pie. So what we came up with the concept 1 is just doing the main line segment. So as Rick said, there are 4 segments. So what you're asking is access to the highway from local destinations. So the center, for example, has a few concepts that looked at different ways of accessing, whether it's exit 5 or exit 6. So those all fall in the center. So a similar type of a screening is going to be taken for the center. And then we have something for the west where we talk about Lake and interchange 3, for example. So that's on the west side. And then on the east side, we'll get into interchange 7 and Newtown Road. So those are all part of a future discussion and conversation that Rick will talk about, and that's in the next steps. But those 3 segments, for example, are going to be in our next conversation on the screening, similar to what we did for the main line. So the main line just addresses the highway piece of it. What you're talking about here is local access, which will be in one of those segments.
So if you remember, we had, like Sharad was saying, so we will address these issues in the east segment and local access through here. Similarly, we will address, Main Street and Tamarack and all of this access through the center segment, and then the access appropriately in the west segment. So that's, John, this is exactly why it was broken down into the segments, so we can better address these access points.
Other comments or questions? I don't see any, Rick.
Thanks, Marcy. So our next step is we are going to provide the entire pack a set of materials that is going to be I'll show you. It's going to be these matrices, but without any dots. And what I mean by that is we will show you all concepts that go into each of the 3 unscreened segments. And we will not have screened them yet. We will give you the tables. And what we would ask of you of this next step is that you take a look at the west, center, and east and make sure that all of your concerns are met in 2 regards. The first is, do we have every consideration in engineering, key and built, and environmental, key and additional, and environmental key and additional, do we have every consideration in there to do our proper screening? And in the rating criterion, do you understand why we've chosen all those different criteria and the ranges of criteria, or for qualifiers as, you know, best, better, and great, or whatever we put in as a qualifier? So we'd like to give you the time over the period between today and the next PAC meeting to digest all of those. And our next PAC meeting, we would like to really open it up for a much more interactive discussion. And so we can discuss all of the criterion and all of the considerations, and make sure that everything that you all are interested in and have questions about are answered, and then we end up putting them in those screening processes. So then after we do that, we will screen our remaining concept segments. And at the next PAC meeting, then we first want to discuss all of those screening criterion, and then we will have done in the background the screening results for those three. And if as we discuss the screening criterion, if we need to adjust our either engineering or environmental considerations, or our ranges that we have for rating criterion, then we can modify our screening results. But if you have no changes to those, we'll be presenting our concept screening results for the east, west, and center segments. Then after our PAC meeting, and we make sure that those screening results seem to be well accepted and understood, then we will begin combining the concepts. Sherrod's team will be working on those concept drawings for feasibility. Then we'll actually screen the concept combinations like we talked about in the funnel. And then again, we'll develop that reasonable range of alternatives that we will recommend to move forward into the environmental study phase for a project. So those are our next steps, and open it up for any further questions, either on the next steps or anything else you've thought of on either the engineering or the environmental screening processes.
There's one thing I'll add. There are three concepts that are part of the screening process that are not on the website. So we'll soon get those up on the website, and you'll probably be notified that they're up on the website when you guys are looking at the package that Rick is talking about. That's concept 15, 16, and 26. So rest of them are all on the website now.
Any comments or questions for Rick and Sherrod?
All right.
All right. Well, what I will say is, you know, I know a few of you stepped in a couple of minutes late. We will post this video. I know this meeting is a little shorter than our last meeting, but you can watch the video and reach out to any of the project contacts, Kevin, Krishaline, Sherrod, Rick, myself, with those questions, and we're happy to have a conversation with you. Okay, quiet group today.
Marcy, this is Janine. I was just going to say, this is a lot to ingest. Rick is now stretching. This is a lot to ingest in one team session. So I would really encourage people to, when you get the materials, to really spend a few minutes just kind of going through it, looking back and forth with the concepts. I think it will make a lot more sense, and it will make for good discussion for our next PAC meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you guys, and I apologize that we as a group don't have more to contribute today, but for my part, I am going to try to spend some time poring over these in detail myself so that I can have some useful feedback. I'm sorry I haven't been able to do that to this point, but thank you guys. I appreciate all the effort you're putting into this, and it's certainly a lot to digest, like Janine said, so thanks, and we will try to have some feedback.
And Perry, we realize there's a lot of information here, and that's why we'd like to give you this whole package so you guys have a month to ingest, and then we can really have a good discussion on our next one. So we appreciate you guys' willingness to look through all this that we'll be sending out.
Thank you, guys. And I'm sure everybody's listening more than they're commenting. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Until next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Ciao.
everyone.
Thank you all.